Somewhere beyond the last reliable map, a continent exhales its frozen breath across 11 time zones. A wall of black storm clouds swallows the horizon, erasing the line between sky and empty earth. Glaciers creak and groan in the dark, like ancient creatures too old and too heavy to be disturbed. A river the width of a small country tears through frozen rock with absolute indifference to any obstacle. Wolves move in silence across a tundra so vast the eye simply gives up trying to follow them. Lightning fractures the sky above a volcanic ridge that has not slept in more than 3,000 years. The cold here is not weather, it is geography, identity, and an ancient warning all at once. Wind drives walls of snow horizontally across a plain that stretches further than the human mind willingly accepts. A lone birch tree bends so far in the gale that its crown nearly kisses the frozen ground below. Then, without warning, the storm breaks, and the rising sun ignites 10 million square miles of white. This is Russia, the single largest nation on Earth, occupying 1/8 of all the planet's land surface. It spans from the Baltic Sea in the west all the way to the Pacific Ocean in the east. 11 time zones divide its borders. What is morning here is already deep night somewhere else inside it. Siberia alone is larger than the entire continent of Australia, yet holds only a fraction of its people. The Taiga, the largest forest on the planet, breathes carbon dioxide across an unbroken green ocean below. Lake Baikal holds 1/5 of all the unfrozen fresh liquid water that exists anywhere on this entire Earth. The Ural Mountains divide this land like a geological spine, separating Europe from the vast Asian world beyond. The Volga River carries the layered stories of civilizations that rose and fell along its muddy ancient banks. The Caucasus peaks rise in the far southwest like a white wall between two completely different worlds. Russia does not offer itself gently to the visitor. It simply exists, indifferent to whoever might arrive. No other country on Earth contains within its borders so many entirely different climates and ecosystems at once. From subtropical coastline to Arctic permafrost, from steppe to the world's deepest freshwater lake, all within one border. The sheer scale of this land rewrites every assumption you have brought with you about what is possible. The forests alone could swallow entire European nations and leave no trace that they had ever existed. Every season here arrives not as a change in temperature, but as a full replacement of the world. Winter does not visit Russia, it occupies it, remaking every landscape in its own cold and exact image. To understand this land, you must first accept that human scale means almost nothing at all here. Russia is not a destination you choose, it is a condition you slowly and completely surrender to. In spring, the Lena River breaks free from winter with a sound like distant and rolling artillery fire. Blocks of ice the size of houses grind and collapse against each other in a churning gray torrent. The thaw releases a season of urgent movement. Every creature on this land begins to migrate or feed. Brown bears emerge from snowbound hillsides, thin and driven by a hunger that has been building for months. Across the open steppe, Mongolian gazelle move in a river of hooves, stretching beyond the visible horizon line. The sky above Lake Baikal becomes a perfect mirror. Every cloud is doubled exactly in the surface below. Then the Siberian wind returns, and the mirror shatters into 10,000 silver fragments of cold, moving water. The Kamchatka Peninsula rises from the Pacific like a geological declaration, 20 active volcanoes lined above the sea. Lava pushes through ancient rock in slow orange tongues, rearranging the coastline 1 meter at a time. Steam vents hiss beside snowfields, a violent collision of fire and ice that stings both eyes and lungs. East of the Urals, the Taiga forest absorbs all sound. Wind enters but does not emerge the same. Siberian tigers press silently through snow-deep undergrowth, their orange and black markings nearly invisible in winter shadow. Amur leopards, fewer than 100 individuals remaining on Earth, move through birch forests with impossible quiet. Above the Arctic coast, the aurora borealis ignites the polar sky in slow curtains of green and violet fire. It moves in liquid waves as if the sky itself is breathing above the frozen and silent ocean. Across southern Russia's grasslands, the spring bird migration blackens the sky for days at a time. The Ob, the Irtysh, and the Amur, 3 river systems greater than any in Europe, drain this continent. Each spring they flood enormous territories, feeding ancient marshes that have stored carbon for 10,000 years. In the Altai Mountains, glaciers calve enormous blocks of ice into turquoise lakes, so cold the color seems unreal. The Kamchatka brown bear, the largest in Asia, stands at the river edge and waits with infinite patience. Salmon push upstream in silver columns so dense the river surface appears to be moving in reverse entirely. The bear strikes and misses, then strikes again, a ritual repeated here long before any human eye watched. The seasons in Russia do not transition gradually. They arrive like full military invasions from opposing climates entirely. The Arctic air that descends in October does not negotiate with whatever warmth it finds waiting below it. It simply erases autumn in a single week and replaces it with a new and total white silence. And when Siberian winter finally returns in full, it does so completely, without compromise and without any apology. Nature here has never accepted boundaries drawn by the human hand or agreed to any seasonal schedule. Everything alive on this land survives not by resisting the forces around it, but by moving with them. For thousands of years before any empire arrived, nomadic peoples moved with the seasons and the animals. The Evenki followed the reindeer herds through landscapes that rewarded patience and punished arrogance completely. The Buryat people built their entire world on the shores of Baikal, reading the ice like a calendar. The Yakuts learned to read the permafrost the way others read soil, as a slow language of survival. Then came the eastward expansion, empire staking territory across mountains, rivers, and frozen empty plains. Cities appeared in impossible places, built on permafrost, supplied by ice roads, heated against extreme cold. Yakutsk became the coldest permanently inhabited city on Earth. Winter temperatures here can fall below -60 degrees. Cars must be left running through the entire night, where they will never start again until the following spring. Breath freezes in the air before it fully leaves the mouth, forming small white clouds that hang suspended motionless. Steel itself cracks in this cold. Buildings are mounted on stilts, sunk deep into permafrost to avoid collapse. Water pipes run above ground because nothing buried would survive the first contraction of a Siberian January night. And yet, families rise before dawn, heat their homes, cook meals, and send children off to crowded schools. Along the Trans-Siberian Railway, the longest rail line on Earth, villages exist that roads never reached. Families settled beside the track in the late 19th century and never found any real reason to leave. The railway connected what had been considered impossible, 8 time zones of raw territory sewn together by iron. Coal towns grew in the Siberian basin, dark and industrial, and utterly committed to a fierce collective endurance. When Soviet industrial ambition finally contracted, some of those towns simply emptied, left like strata of frozen hope. Ghost cities sit preserved in the far north, apartment blocks still furnished, as if residents stepped out briefly. The furniture is still arranged, the curtains still hanging, everything waiting for a population that is never returning. But elsewhere, communities held on and were slowly shaped by isolation into a particular kind of quiet self-reliance. The reindeer herders of Chukotka still move with their animals across hundreds of miles of snow each winter. They carry their entire world with them: shelter, fire, food, and the deep knowledge of reading Arctic weather. The nomad's tent rises in an hour and disappears in another, leaving no trace on the white land below. Russia's human story is not one of conquest. It is one of almost incomprehensible endurance above all else. People here did not simply settle in a difficult place. They reorganized themselves entirely around its extreme demands. The land shaped the language, the architecture, the diet, the calendar, the spiritual life, and the national character. Russia is not only what was built here, it is everything that was refused to be abandoned. Every village still standing in the permafrost is a quiet argument against the idea that nature always wins. In late autumn, a polar vortex descends from the high Arctic and swallows northeastern Siberia completely and totally. The temperature falls 50 degrees in 36 hours. Even the most experienced local residents do not go outside. On Kamchatka, Kluchevskaya Sopka erupts without warning. Its ash column climbs 20 kilometers straight into the pale sky. The sound reaches across 300 miles of rugged peninsula, felt as a compression in the chest first. Rivers of pyroclastic material erase the slope below in seconds, rewriting the mountain's own geography in one afternoon. On the Chukchi Sea, a polar storm generates 12-meter waves that crash hard against the pack ice edge. The ice screams and groans under the pressure, ridges rising and collapsing in a slow and violent theater. In the Taiga, a wildfire driven by extreme Siberian drought moves faster than any vehicle on the ground. The smoke column rises 40 kilometers above the burning canopy, visible and identifiable from orbit around the Earth. Satellites track the fire's movement in real time, but no satellite has ever stopped even a single flame. Below, the ancient forest becomes something else entirely, a landscape governed purely by velocity and complete erasure. In the Amur Basin, a floodplain the size of Belgium disappears beneath brown water in under 40 hours. Satellite images reveal a river with no visible banks, only a vast shallow sea where fields were yesterday. The Siberian tiger paces a high ridge above the flood, its amber eyes cataloging a world rearranged below. At the Arctic shore, a polar bear crosses sea ice measurably thinner than it was just 10 years ago. Each slow step forward is a careful and instinctive calculation. The ice groans beneath the weight, but holds. The bear does not pause to consider the physics. It simply keeps moving steadily across the groaning ice. An earthquake registers below the Kamchatka shelf, sending a deep pulse outward across the entire North Pacific basin. The ocean absorbs the energy and redistributes it quietly, a warning written in water that few instruments catch. The permafrost across the Siberian plain is thawing in places where it has been frozen for 12,000 years. Ancient methane rises in slow columns from lake beds that were solid tundra only a single generation ago. The land itself is changing from beneath, not from outside, but from within its own long geological patience. Above all of it, the aurora returns again, indifferent to every fire, flood, and earthquake recorded below it. Its green and violet light moves across the polar sky in patterns no instrument has ever fully explained. Russia is not a country that can be summarized or contained within any definition a visitor brings to it. It is not measured in cities or borders or any census taken by any government at any time. It is measured only in what it does to you, slowly, silently, and without your full permission. Long after every footprint is buried under the arriving snow, Russia will still be moving, vast, cold, alive.